Echoes of divinity, the gods who shaped the ancient world. Across the dust of vanished empires and the ruins of lost temples, echoes still linger, whispers of beings who once ruled the heavens, the seas, the sun, and the soul. This is not just mythology. It is the memory of humanity's oldest questions, etched into stone and starlight. In this immersive journey, we travel through time and belief, exploring 15 ancient gods who once reigned as the ultimate forces of their civilizations. From the hidden star gods of Sumer to the radiant deities of Egypt, the storm lords of Canaan, the serpent spirits of the Americas, and the shadowed Allfathers of the North. Each chapter unveils a different god, a different truth, a different vision of power, nature, and destiny. Each chapter is paired with rich visuals and meditative prose, drawing connections between past and present, myth and meaning, ritual and reality. These gods are more than stories. They are archetypes that still pulse beneath the surface of human culture, identity, and mystery. 15 gods, 15 portals, one unbroken thread. Chapter 1. Anu, the Sky Father of Sumer. Long before the pyramids rose and empires drew lines across the earth, the people of Sumer gazed skyward and whispered the name of their highest god, Anu. He was not the god of a single element, nor a spirit of rain or harvest, but something far greater, the celestial authority, the unseeable vault of heaven itself. In the Sumerian worldview, Anu stood at the apex of the divine hierarchy. He was the father of the gods, the king of constellations, and the embodiment of cosmic law. From his high throne in the Inanna, a realm beyond the stars, Anu was said to decree the destinies of all things. He rarely intervened directly in mortal affairs, but when he did, the consequences shaped history and myth alike. Temples dedicated to him, the most renowned being Inanna, in Uruk, weren't just places of worship. They were symbolic portals, connecting earth with the heavens. Priests and stargazers who served Anu were the early astronomers of civilization, mapping celestial events not just for science, but for signs of divine will. What made Anu especially mysterious was his absence from direct mythological action. While other gods like Enlil and Inanna played dramatic roles in creation and war, Anu was the quiet center of the storm, a god who ruled by virtue of his cosmic stillness. In many ways, Anu wasn't a character. He was a principle of divine order, kingship, and the untouchable expanse of the sky itself. Later cultures would echo this archetype. Zeus, Odin, even the concept of the Abrahamic god bear Anu's silhouette in their myths. He was the first throne, the original sky ruler, carved into the consciousness of humanity like constellations onto the night. Chapter 2. Ra, the solar heart of ancient Egypt. At the dawn of every Egyptian day, when the first rays pierced the horizon, the people knew Ra was rising. He wasn't just a sun god, he was the sun. The golden disk that bathed the land in light, nourished the Nile, and judged the souls of kings. To the ancient Egyptians, Ra was not a symbol. He was reality in motion. Depicted with the head of a falcon crowned by a blazing solar disk, Ra embodied both sight and sovereignty. His eye, the eye of Ra, was more than a tool of vision. It was a force of cosmic wrath, protection, and power. His daily journey across the sky wasn't poetic. It was literal in their eyes as he sailed the solar bark, a divine ship, from east to west. But Ra's story wasn't confined to daylight. Each night, he descended into the Duat, the underworld, confronting chaos in the form of the serpent Apophis. The battle was eternal. Every morning, Ra emerged victorious, reborn with the sun. And in doing so, he modeled the cycle of life, death, and resurrection for all beings. In Egypt's Golden Age, the pharaohs claimed their divine lineage through Ra. Temples like Heliopolis became centers of astronomical alignment, prophecy, and statecraft, all orbiting the cult of Ra. The sun, after all, dictated the rhythm of the land. It was logic and law, spirit and flame. Later, Ra's identity merged with others, forming Ra-Horakti, Amun-Ra, and more. But his essence remained unchanged, the radiant, ever-seeing force at the center of creation. In him, light was not just illumination, it was divine intelligence shining on the world. Chapter 3. Zeus, Lord of the Thundercloud. On Mount Olympus, where the clouds curl like silvered scrolls above the mortal world, one god rules with a thunderbolt in hand and the weight of destiny in his voice, Zeus. To the ancient Greeks, he was not just king of the gods. He was the arbiter of justice, the keeper of oaths, and the personification of divine authority over both the heavens and human fate. Zeus rose to power by overthrowing the Titans, his own father Cronus among them, in a battle that split time into two epochs, the rule of chaos and the rule of law. From then on, Olympus became his court, and every thunderclap a declaration of order. He was a sky god, yes, but Zeus was more than storms and lightning. He embodied balance. In his wrath, cities could burn. In his mercy, civilizations could flourish. He upheld Xenia, the sacred law of hospitality, and punished those who broke it, teaching that even gods watch over the humblest of mortal interactions. Temples across Greece, especially at Olympia and Dodona, were raised in his honor, filled with sacred flame, oracles, and colossal statues. He was imagined with a regal beard, eyes like storm clouds, and always with a bolt of raw power ready to strike. But like many gods of power, Zeus was paradoxical, both protector and deceiver, bringer of law and breaker of boundaries. His many affairs with mortals and gods alike birthed heroes, wars, and prophecies. He was divine unpredictability wrapped in divine rule, and in that, the Greeks saw the truth of the world. Power is never simple. Chapter 4. Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent of dawn. In the sacred cities of ancient Mesoamerica, when the first light crept over temple steps and mist coiled in jungle canopies, the people looked to the east, to the feathered serpent, the god who brought both breath and brilliance. His name was Quetzalcoatl, a fusion of sky and earth, of serpent and bird, of creation and wisdom. To the Toltecs and later the Aztecs, Quetzalcoatl was more than a deity. He was a civilizing force. While other gods demanded sacrifice and blood, Quetzalcoatl was said to have given humanity the gifts of maize, art, writing, calendars, and astronomy. He was the god who taught rather than conquered, who guided rather than ruled. His image was a paradox made divine, a serpent, symbol of the underworld and transformation, adorned in the radiant feathers of the Quetzal bird, a creature of the skies. Through this union, Quetzalcoatl embodied the meeting point between spirit and matter, heaven and earth. But even the god of wisdom was not free from fate. Myths tell of betrayal, exile, and prophecy, that Quetzalcoatl, after being tricked and shamed, set himself ablaze and rose into the heavens as the morning star. Some believed he would one day return from the east, borne on winds or ships, to reclaim his place among his people. His temples, most famously at Teotihuacan and Cholula, aligned with celestial movements, mark him as a deity not just of ritual but of cosmic design. In every carved feather, every serpent motif, and every legend of his return, Quetzalcoatl reminds us, the divine is not always a storm or a sword. Sometimes it is a breath of dawn, a thought made sacred. Chapter 5. Shiva, the Lord of the Cosmic Dance. In the heart of India's spiritual tradition, amidst flickering oil lamps, sacred chants, and rivers that echo with eternity, one god both destroys and resurrects the universe with every motion. He is Shiva, the ascetic and the ecstatic, the god of paradox and transformation. To followers of the Hindu tradition, Shiva is not merely one god among many. He is a cosmic principle. He is Mahadeva, the great god who exists beyond time, whose third eye burns through illusion, and whose trident pierces the cycle of creation, preservation, and destruction. Shiva is a figure of profound complexity. He is the serene yogi meditating atop Mount Kailash, draped in tiger skin, ash upon his skin, and the moon in his matted hair. But he is also Nataraja, the lord of the dance, who spins galaxies into being with graceful, terrifying rhythm. In one hand, he holds the Damaru, a drum of creation. In another, the flame of destruction. His dance takes place in the circle of samsara, the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. Shiva's stories are as vast as India's landscapes. He drank poison to save the world, earning the name Nilkanth, the blue-throated one. He tamed the river Ganges, letting it flow from his hair. He burned desire itself when the god Kama tried to distract him. He is destruction, yes, but always for the purpose of renewal. In every shrine, from the Himalayas to Tamil Nadu, Shiva appears as the lingam, a symbol of formless, creative energy. To worship Shiva is not just to seek protection, it is to stand before the ultimate force of change and transformation, and to be willing to dissolve the ego in the face of something far greater. Chapter 6. Isis, the Enchantress of Resurrection. In the sacred silence of Egyptian temples and the quiet waters of the Nile, one name was whispered with both reverence and hope: Isis. She was not a god of storms or conquest. She was the goddess of magic, motherhood, healing, and above all, life restored. To the ancient Egyptians and cultures far beyond, Isis was the divine caretaker, the bringer of wholeness in a fractured world. Isis's story is one of love, grief, and miraculous power. When her husband Osiris was betrayed and dismembered by his brother Set, it was Isis who searched the earth for the pieces, gathered them in sacred mourning, and with the help of her spells brought Osiris back to life, not only to rule the underworld but to ensure the cycle of rebirth would forever turn. She was often depicted with wings outstretched, a throne-shaped crown upon her head, or nursing her son Horus, who would grow to challenge Set and restore order. In this, Isis became not just a goddess, but a symbol of divine protection and resilience, a figure who could span the veil between the living and the dead, between fate and will. Priests and midwives invoked her name. Kings swore oaths under her gaze, and in later centuries her worship spread beyond Egypt to Greece, Rome, and across the Mediterranean, where she became the face of mystery cults and the divine feminine. In Isis, we find no thunderbolt or fire, but the quiet power of compassion, cunning, and cosmic balance. She is the whisper in the dark that says, "Not all is lost." Chapter 7. Odin, the one-eyed seeker of wisdom. In the frost-bitten expanse of the ancient north, where winter howls through pine and mountain, one god sat upon a high throne and looked across the 9 realms. He was Odin, the All-Father, the one-eyed wanderer, god of war, wisdom, and death, and yet also of poetry, prophecy, and the runes. No god held more contradiction, nor more power over fate. To the Norse, Odin was not a distant figure of perfection. He was ruthless in his pursuit of knowledge, sacrificing his own eye at the well of Mimir to drink the waters of insight. He hung himself from the world tree, Yggdrasil, pierced by his own spear, for 9 nights, an offering to himself, to bring the runes into the world. For Odin, truth had a price, and he paid it gladly. He ruled Asgard with quiet intensity, flanked by his ravens Hugin and Munin, thought and memory, and his wolves Geri and Freki. But Odin was no simple king. He was a wanderer cloaked in shadow, a shapeshifter, a god who walked among mortals as a beggar or bard, whispering riddles, testing hearts, gathering secrets. Warriors invoked him before battle, not for protection, but for glory. To die in combat under Odin's gaze meant a place in Valhalla, the hall of the slain, where the chosen few prepared for Ragnarok, the final clash between gods and giants. Odin knew that fate could not be changed. Even the gods must die. But he would meet the end knowing every truth, every possibility. In Odin, the Norse saw not a god of comfort, but of unflinching purpose. He was the burning hunger for meaning, the cost of wisdom, the shadow behind the throne, and the raven's cry at the edge of the world. Chapter 8. Inanna, Queen of Heaven and the Underworld. Before gods ruled Olympus and the Norse sang of Asgard, there was Inanna, radiant, fierce, and enigmatic. To the Sumerians, she was the Queen of Heaven, goddess of love, war, fertility, and political power. But her story defied every boundary. Inanna was not confined to one realm or one role. She crossed thresholds that even the gods feared. She was the morning star, the planet Venus, brilliant and unyielding. Her temples, especially in Uruk, stood at the heart of Sumerian life. She was celebrated in hymns older than nearly all written myth, described as both tender and terrifying, alluring and unstoppable. She adorned herself in jewels and divine makeup, carrying the me, sacred laws of civilization, gifted or stolen from Enki, the god of wisdom. But her most haunting tale is the descent to the underworld. Driven by an unknown calling, Inanna chose to leave the world of the living and journey to the realm of her sister, Ereshkigal, queen of the dead. At each gate she passed, she was stripped of a symbol of her power, her crown, necklace, rings, robes, until she stood naked and bowed low in the shadows. There, she was judged, struck down, and hung on a hook. And yet, she returned. Through mystery, sacrifice, and divine exchange, Inanna rose again, not as she was, but transformed. She had seen death and come back, her power doubled, her presence even more magnetic and unknowable. Inanna is the ancient archetype of descent and return, of love and wrath, life and death, embodied in one figure. She reminds us that to be whole, one must descend into the dark and return with eyes wide open. Chapter 9. Huitzilopochtli, the sun warrior of the Aztecs. High upon the temples of Tenochtitlan, where blood met stone and sun met sky, the Aztecs worshipped a god born for war, for flame, and for the beating heart of the cosmos. His name was Huitzilopochtli, the hummingbird of the south, the radiant and terrible god of the sun, fire, and conquest. To the Mexica people, Huitzilopochtli was not a passive force of light. He was a warrior deity, ceaselessly battling the forces of darkness to ensure the sun's rise each day. His legend began in blood. Born fully armed from the womb of Coatlicue, he immediately defended his mother by slaying his siblings, the moon goddess Coyolxauhqui and the 400 stars of the south. In this myth, the Aztecs saw the cosmic order. The sun must always defeat the night, or the world would fall into eternal shadow. Temples were built in his name atop the Templo Mayor, where sacrifices, though brutal, were seen as sacred. The offering of a human heart was not an act of cruelty, but a cosmic necessity. Life fed life. The blood of the chosen kept the sun in motion, and the fate of the world balanced on every ceremony. Huitzilopochtli was often depicted as a blue-skinned warrior with a serpent-shaped staff and a hummingbird helmet, streaked in war paint and divine light. The hummingbird, to the Aztecs, symbolized resurrection, constantly moving, impossible to pin down, always chasing the sun. In his cult, the Aztecs saw not only the cycle of the sun, but the truth of empire. that power is fleeting, that glory requires sacrifice, and that divinity demands motion and strength. Chapter 10. Amaterasu, the light of the rising sun. In the sacred heart of Japan, where mountains whisper to the sea and cherry blossoms drift like falling stars, the most revered of all kami is Amaterasu, the sun goddess. She is the divine ancestor of emperors, the bringer of life, and the embodiment of harmony, clarity, and the sacred light that awakens the world. Her full name, Amaterasu Omikami, means the great divinity who shines in the heavens. In Shinto belief, she is not just the sun, she is the light of life itself, woven into the fabric of rice fields, shrines, and the breath of every living thing. As the ruler of Takamagahara, the high celestial plane, she governs not with thunder or vengeance, but with radiance and order. But even the goddess of light once vanished. When her brother Susanoo, the storm god, wreaked havoc in the celestial realms, Amaterasu, in sorrow and fear, hid herself in the heavenly cave, plunging the world into darkness. Crops withered, chaos spread. The other gods, desperate, devised a plan. They performed dances, hung mirrors, and staged laughter until her curiosity drew her out once more. In that moment, light returned. It was the mythic dawn, replayed every morning in Japan's eastern sky. To this day, her mirror, the Yata no Kagami, remains one of the 3 imperial regalia, passed down as proof of divine lineage. The Ise Grand Shrine, rebuilt every 20 years in a perfect ritual of continuity, is her earthly home, a space of simplicity and spiritual purity. Amaterasu is more than mythology. She is Japan's golden thread, tying nature, ancestry, and future into a single, glowing path of reverence. Chapter 11. Enki, the waters of wisdom. In the deep, cool undercurrents of Mesopotamian myth, where the sweet waters of the Abzu flowed beneath the earth, there lived a god of knowledge, creation, and benevolence, Enki, also known as Ea. Among the Sumerian pantheon, Enki was not a ruler by force, but a guide by intellect, a god of the deep who brought balance, invention, and sometimes mischief to the cosmic order. He ruled not the heavens, but the subterranean waters, the lifeblood of existence. From his temple, the Abzu in Eridu, said to be the first city, Enki shaped humanity's fate through generosity and cleverness. He was the god of crafts, language, agriculture, and magic, and guardian of the Me, the divine laws of civilization. His most famous tale is the creation of humankind. When the gods grew tired of laboring, Enki devised a plan. He mingled clay with divine blood to fashion humanity, not as slaves, but as caretakers of the earth. In this act, he became the father of culture and the first whisper of science and technology in myth. But Enki was also a trickster, sly, wise, and often at odds with his fellow gods. When Inanna attempted to steal the Me from him through drink and charm, he let her, perhaps knowingly. When Enlil tried to destroy humanity with a great flood, it was Enki who warned Zeus, preserving life through secret knowledge. Enki embodies the tension between structure and innovation, between water's chaos and wisdom's clarity. Where others brought judgment, Enki brought ideas, cool, flowing, and forever vital. Chapter 12. Tezcatlipoca, the smoking mirror of night and fate. In the obsidian depths of Mesoamerican mythology, where shadows speak and mirrors reveal hidden truths, there reigns a god both feared and revered, Tezcatlipoca, the smoking mirror, the god of night, sorcery, fate, and the jaguar. To the Aztecs, he was a cosmic trickster and a divine judge, a shapeshifter cloaked in mystery and contradiction. Where Huitzilopochtli ruled with fire and sun, Tezcatlipoca governed the dark spaces of the spirit, dreams, omens, and the twists of destiny. His obsidian mirror, worn on his chest or replacing his foot, lost in battle with a primordial sea monster, was no ordinary object. It was a portal, one that showed not just reflections, but truth stripped of illusion, even if it shattered the soul to see. His name alone invoked awe. Tezcatlipoca was the Lord of the North, the invisible wind, the force behind unexpected change. He could gift kingship or tear it away in an instant. He seduced, tested, punished, and empowered, all in the same breath. In one of his most famous myths, he descended to earth to tempt and destroy the Toltec king Quetzalcoatl, exposing his pride and leading to his downfall. It wasn't cruelty. It was balance. Tezcatlipoca was the unrelenting reminder that nothing remains pure or stable forever. He appeared as a jaguar, a shadow, or a youthful noble with black face paint and a glowing mirror. In rituals, he was embodied by a chosen youth, dressed, revered, and finally sacrificed at the height of celebration. To be Tezcatlipoca was to walk the edge of power and oblivion. He was the god of the smoke between stars, the unpredictable pull of fate, and the mirror that always sees more than you want it to. Chapter 13. Thoth, the divine scribe of time and thought. In the hush of ancient libraries, where papyrus curled beneath flickering lamplight and stars moved with sacred intent, one god held the quill that shaped the cosmos. Thoth, the ibis-headed god of writing, wisdom, time, and balance. To the ancient Egyptians, he was the divine intelligence behind language and law, the scribe of the gods, the record-keeper of reality. Thoth, also called Jehuti, was not a ruler of sun or war but of knowledge, a force deeper and subtler than power. He was believed to have invented writing, mathematics, and astronomy. With each celestial alignment, each stroke of glyph on stone, Thoth wove order into chaos and made the eternal legible. He served as counselor and scribe in the weighing of the heart in the Hall of Ma'at, where the souls of the dead were judged. Holding a stylus, he recorded every truth, not with bias or emotion, but with the calm precision of a divine intellect. His presence ensured that justice was recorded, that nothing, not even a whisper of dishonesty, could pass unnoticed. He was often depicted with the head of an ibis, sometimes a baboon, both sacred animals. The ibis, elegant and otherworldly, symbolized his grace. The baboon, his connection to the moon and timekeeping. For Thoth was also the god of lunar cycles, the keeper of calendars, the one who set the stars in rhythm and guided the souls of both kings and scribes alike. The ancient Greeks equated him with Hermes, blending him into the mystic figure of Hermes Trismegistus, a cornerstone of alchemical and hermetic traditions. Through that lineage, Thoth's influence echoed into esoteric science, occultism, and even the Renaissance. In every scroll, every equation, every prayer spoken in rhythm, Thoth is there. He is the ink in the veins of civilization, the thought before speech, the balance before judgment, the quiet voice behind the laws of the universe. Chapter 14. Pachamama, the living earth of the Andes. High in the breathless altitudes of the Andes, where condors soar and terraces carve life into the mountainside, the ancient peoples of South America looked down not with dominion, but with reverence. The earth was not an object. It was a mother. Her name was Pachamama, the goddess of the earth, of fertility, cycles, sustenance, and sacred reciprocity. To the Inca and the Andean civilizations before and after them, Pachamama was life itself, embodied in soil, stone, and sky. She was not distant nor abstract. She was immediate, the land beneath your feet, the water in your fields, the warmth in your hearth. And like any mother, she could be nurturing or punishing depending on how she was treated. In the Andean worldview, the universe was built upon Ini, sacred balance, exchange, and relationship. People gave offerings to Pachamama, chicha, coca leaves, maize, or tiny golden llamas, not as transactions, but as signs of respect. To take from the earth was to promise to give back. She was married to the sky god Inti, the sun, but unlike solar deities who govern from above, Pachamama was within and all around. Mountains were her bones, rivers her veins, earthquakes were her stirrings, and each season, birth and harvest was a renewal of her presence. Even today, in modern Bolivia, Peru, and northern Argentina, Pachamama's festivals continue. Her image is not frozen in temples, but alive in ritual, in whispered prayers before planting, in buried offerings on moonlit nights. She is the sacred feminine in its most grounded form, not idealized, but lived. In Pachamama, the ancients saw what many moderns forget, that the earth is not merely a place, she is a presence. Chapter 15. Baal, the storm lord of thunder and renewal. In the ancient Levant, where the rains could mean the difference between famine and feast, one god's name rumbled with thunder, Baal, the lord of the storm, bringer of rain, fertility, and victory. To the Canaanites, Phoenicians, and early Israelites, Baal was not merely a deity. He was a force of nature, both feared and venerated, a god who descended in lightning and roared from the clouds. His full name, often rendered Hadad Baal, placed him at the peak of divine power. With his raised arm clutching a thunderbolt, Baal struck down the great sea monster Yam, establishing the order of the world and his throne atop Mount Zaphon. He ruled the sky, governed the waters, and ensured crops would grow and empires would stand. But Baal's myth is also a tale of death and return. After his battle with Mot, the god of death and sterility, Baal descends into the underworld. The earth dries. Fertility dies. Yet with the weeping of Anat, his fierce sister, and a war of vengeance, Baal is resurrected, a symbol of seasonal renewal. In his cycle, the ancients saw the truth of the harvest. All things must fall before they rise again. Baal's worship was both powerful and politically complex. In Ugarit and Carthage, his cult was central to civic life. But in the Hebrew Bible, he was cast as a rival god, a symbol of temptation, idol worship, and apostasy. The tension between Yahweh and Baal was not just theological, but cultural, between desert austerity and the lush seductions of city-states. Yet beyond the polemics, Baal remains one of the oldest gods of thunder, resurrection, and elemental power. In his shadow, kings made oaths. In his storms, fields flourished. And in his myth, the ancient world found its rhythm of life and death, and life again.